Welcome to the Manifestation and Money Podcast, Christina. I am so excited to have you on the show today, and I would love for you to share with the listeners who you are and what your story is.
Thank you so much for having me here today, Jenny. I really appreciate this opportunity. So, I'm Christina Day. I wear many hats. First of all, I'm a mom. I have an awesome 13-year-old boy. I'm a divorced mom, so I was married at one point. And I'm also an ER nurse. I've been a nurse for 20 years, 10 in the ER. I still do that. And then in the business world, I wear a few hats there as well. I'm a coach. I'm a licensed life insurance agent in Ontario. So I do some financial coaching and I also do some health coaching and some other things in between there as well.
What sparked you? Because that seems like such polar opposite fields there. So you're an ER nurse. What sparked you to then go into coaching and stuff alongside? Because you still have the job as an ER nurse?
Yeah, I
Okay,
do.
so what sparked that other business that you started up?
That was my own personal struggles right before COVID hit. I was going through a divorce. My health sucked. I was burnt out, stressed to the nines. I had no idea what I was doing with my life. I was working full time as a nurse. And then, of course, COVID hit and the burnout just got that much worse. So I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but this is not sustainable. I can't keep working full time in an ER. And then now a single mom having to pay bills and all that. So quitting was not an option, of course. But I ended up going down to part time just for my sanity and then being able to take a step back from all that. I got into coaching, it sort of fell into my lap. And I was focusing on the health coaching aspect, helping women with weight loss and the burnout, all the things that I was dealing with. Oh, also, I was getting into my 40s at that time. So, of course, the premenopausal weight gain and all the things were happening at the same time. Once I was able to help myself, then I was able to help my clients. I became really passionate about that. But then the financial piece came into play because when I was married, I let my then husband take care of all our finances. He had these fancy Excel sheets, like perfect. He knows what he's doing. I can take a step back. I don't need to worry about that. Turns out he actually didn't know what he was doing. He got us into a ton
Ew.
of debt. Oh, yeah. He got us into a ton of debt. So I was able to learn how to deal with my own finances. I love learning, whether it's health related or financial or mindset stuff, psychology. I love learning. So I just threw myself into that to be able to help myself figure out what the heck I'm doing because nobody taught me anything about financial literacy. I'm now in my 40s and finally I know stuff. Finally.
Isn't that fascinating that the money, that thing that we need to use essentially every single day in our life, whether like some kind of money exchange happens just for the place that we're sleeping every night, how it is such an important piece of our human existence, yet we don't really get taught about financial literacy because I feel like it is something that should kind of be built upon over the years. And I get that as a younger child, you're not going to grasp. As a teen, you're not going to grasp certain concepts. And as you get into adulthood, again, it's going to totally shift into the different responsibilities you have. But I feel like there should be a whole bunch of layers to this foundation that we're building. And so many people I've talked to hit adulthood and they're like, holy crap, I'm struggling here. I feel like I'm failing, but I don't even know where to start. So for you, you had a husband who you thought was taking care of all the finances, doing a good job. He wasn't. What do you think is something that you could share to your previous self in that relationship on just some things that you could have done to contribute to your own financial well-being?
I think the biggest piece that was missing was communication. And that was communication on his part. I don't know for sure, but I have a feeling that he felt like he had to know how to do things because he's the man in the relationship, right? So maybe there's some shame there. I don't know. That certainly has come up with some of the clients I've worked with, but I don't know what his story was. I know my story was I don't have the time to deal with it. He seems to be doing okay. So I'm just going to bury my head in the sand and hope it all works out. So we never really communicated. We sort of communicated a little bit about our goals and where we want our money to go and that kind of thing, but not to the extent that we should have. So that was probably the biggest issue.
So let's talk about money mindset or money beliefs. What are things that you see people show up with that really hang them up in this whole adulthood of trying to deal with money, but we've got these dark clouds in our head?
Oh gosh, a lot of it does have to do with financial literacy. So simply not knowing where to start, not knowing how to budget, not knowing how to save for retirement, and knowing very little about investing. Like you go to the bank and you put some money into a savings account and you think you're doing great, but not understanding how interest rates work and that sort of thing. So just the basics that people seem to not really understand. And then, oh my gosh, limiting beliefs. There's so many limiting beliefs that come up. Off the top of my head, scarcity mindset, right? We all think, even when we start making more money into our adulthood, if we come from just not having enough money as we grow up, that was my story. I came to Canada as an immigrant kid. My parents were definitely not well off. I took that scarcity mindset with me into adulthood. Even when I was starting to make money, I didn't really know what to do with it. And then I ended up spending it because that's just what you do when you have money,
That's what
right?
money's for, right? It's to be
That's what
spent.
money is for. Yeah. Just so many limiting beliefs around that and shifting that mindset. And even people that, are wealthy financially. I talk about this with my clients a lot, and I've talked about it in one of my master classes that I had a while back, that people were just shocked about. It's the 7 forms of wealth. Money is only one form of wealth. And I got this from Robin Sharma when I was reading his book a while back. I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. Like, we're so focused on the money aspect of wealth, but there's other things like your inner wealth, such as having a positive mindset, high self-respect, that sort of stuff, internal peace with yourself. There's physical wealth, such as your health, which is a huge part, right? If you aren't healthy enough to be able to earn a living, that's going to affect your money too. It makes so much sense, right? There's family and social wealth. There's your career wealth. Are you happy in your job? It's that simple. Like, are you happy doing what you're doing every single day? Or are you going to work being miserable? When I was working full time as a nurse, I was definitely miserable. Now, when I was able to step back and do less hours, I actually realized that I do love being a nurse. It sort of brought me back to when I first started being a nurse and why I got into that career. So, that piece as well, and adventure wealth. I love traveling, I love adventure. That's really important to me. And the last one is impact wealth. How do we make a difference to society? So it's not just about the money. That's
Yeah.
only one piece of all that.
And so you said that was Robin Sharma, and what was that book called?
The Greatness Guide.
The Greatness Guide. Okay, thank you. I'm so glad you shared that because I know for me, there was a point back in my late 20s where I had the fancy sports car. I had all of these things, and I still would say to Chris, I'm like, I feel like I've lost my mojo. I feel like I don't have this spark for life. I have all these things, but I still feel like something is missing. I should have read that book back then. So if anybody's feeling that way of just like, I have these things or I just don't feel satisfied with my life, I think that sounds like a beautiful way of looking at the different areas. Because yeah, if you don't have health, I know if I get slammed with a bad migraine, my whole day is written off. Anything I had planned is canceled. Like life doesn't exist in the form that I wanted it to. If you can look at the simple areas of your life and look and maybe see where you're not quite raising the bar where you want to, that could be a game changer. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the first time I've heard of that book. And I am going to add it to my collection because I feel like as my kids grow up, I want to have these resources in my toolbox to be able to have options to pass on to them if they get in those same stuck points that I got in, right? So that's really,
Yeah,
really cool.
exactly.
Now, when it comes to, I don't know, let's go down, say, debt. So do you have any tips for people that are trying to either reduce their debt load or stay out of debt? Let's talk about the money subject for a
Yeah,
bit.
let's talk about that. So, debt is definitely something that comes up a lot. And there's different strategies. So we can go through and see exactly what kind of debt my clients have, what percentage of interest they're paying on each one. Is there a way that we can consolidate all that and lower that interest? So there's lots of different strategies, or you can do the Dave Ramsey method, the snowball method, where you pay off your smallest one
Just to get that win.
just to get that win, and then it kind of snowballs. So you can absolutely do whichever one works for you, as long as you're doing something to
Mm.
tackle that debt, right? So that's where I would come in. I would help you with budgeting and figure out, is there a way that we can cut certain things out of your budget temporarily in order to have some big wins later on?
What kind of things do people usually have in their spending plan that are good things to cut out, or things that you suggest maybe this should go for now?
Everybody is so different. So it's really, if there's something that's really important to you, but it might not be important to me, and I as a coach would come to you and be like, oh, you have to cut out you're going out to restaurants spending. You have to cut that out. Like, you're just spending a ridiculous amount on takeout and all this. But that's something that's really important to them. So maybe there's something else that they can look at and go, okay, maybe I don't need to get my hair dyed at the salon every month. Maybe I can cut that out instead. Great, right? It's so individualized. And what's important to one person is not going to be important to somebody else. And it's just a lot easier to have the clients come up with a plan themselves instead of me sitting there dictating what they need to do or what I think they should do, because I'm just one person. I have my own opinions, but that doesn't mean that it's the right thing for my clients. So it's very individualized.
Okay. Yeah, when you say that, it makes me think of my kitchen. My kitchen is still original to the house that we live in. And I know my sister cringes when she comes in because to her, a kitchen like that is the hub that she wants, this pristine, beautiful, and her kitchen is stunning. But my kitchen, it's functional. It is functional. That's what I see it is. It's the place we go to get the food, we wash and clean it, and that's all it is to me. So, yes, I can get where like leaning into what matters to you so that you can spend. For you, Christina, what is something that is in your budget that is a non-negotiable for you that you need to have in there?
Travel, 100%,
Mm.
non-negotiable. And books. Those are my two things. So books, obviously a lot cheaper than travel, but those two are non-negotiable. So I will not go out to eat for months on end if I need to save money, but I will buy my books, try to get them on sale, and I will make sure that I can do at least 2 trips a year.
Fun.
At least. Last year I did 5, so that was awesome.
Yeah, that I would say is pretty awesome. Fascinating. Okay. So now for you, what are some habits that you've had to adapt in your life to do this shift? Because you're going from a life of burnout and you have made a big shift, dropping to part-time, creating a second income stream along with that. What are some habits for you that you've had to add?
Oh, that's a tough question because honestly, I don't even recognize the person that I am today compared to 5 years ago when this journey started. And it was just building little tiny habits a day at a time or a week at a time. I work out every day now. That's something I hardly ever did. I would have a gym membership that was collecting dust before. Now I don't have a gym membership, but I make sure that I get movement in my day every single day, whether that looks like walking on the treadmill during a Zoom call or doing strength training in my living room or going out for a walk outside and getting some sunshine. It doesn't matter what that looks like, but I have to make sure that I do that every single day. And it's a non-negotiable now. So that was definitely a big shift, was taking care of my health. And then completely revamped my kitchen, my pantry, got rid of not all the junk food. I have a 13-year-old boy, so we do have some junk food on hand, but my kitchen looks a lot different today than it did before. And just being able to cook nourishing meals at home and having healthy snacks on hand and being able to change my son's mindset a little bit about what good food is as well. Those were little tiny habits that I had to create over time. I think I started with getting rid of seed oils years ago. And now completely different how I cook.
Totally off topic here, but I'm curious, in just a healthy lifestyle, what do you replace seed oils with? Because that's something that we're a debate we're going through in our kitchen right now. It's relevant for me.
Yeah, so I use coconut oil, avocado oil, and olive oil, depending on what I'm using it for. So those are my top three for sure.
Okay.
You can use ghee as well. I know a lot of people prefer to use ghee. I just haven't done that, but yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. And when you're sharing that, it made me think back to how you were talking earlier about the snowball. Like when you start with taking off those little debts and getting those little wins, and as you start paying down your debt load, it's kind of like a snowball. It gets bigger and bigger, and you can start seeing the difference you're making. And I think you just touched on that with habits. You start small, you start taking the action towards what you want, and ultimately you're changing who you are, the essence of you with your new habits,
Mhm.
getting rid of old habits. So it's a whole snowball thing again. You are slowly morphing
It
into something
is.
bigger and bigger until you're like, holy crap, now I'm this entirely different person than I was 5 years ago or however many years ago. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing
And
that.
it's not that difficult because our bodies, we want to be at a certain baseline, right? We're going to do things that are going to elevate that baseline for a little bit. We're going to work out, we're going to eat healthy, we're going to do all these things, but then we're going to drop down again to hit that baseline. But when you're just slowly changing
Mhm.
your habits, just little tweaks here and there, you don't even notice that baseline going up higher.
Mm.
Now, all of a sudden, even though you're fluctuating, your baseline is already higher. And then you keep doing that, you keep improving on those habits, then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, like that person 5 years ago,
Yeah.
completely different. I
Yeah.
don't know how that happened.
Yeah. And the bank account that used to be sitting in the red is now in the black, right? Like if you're slowly that new baseline. And yeah, Chris and I all the time when we look back at our like rental portfolios, there is a cushion that we like to have in our bank account to know that if something goes wrong at one of them, we feel secure. We feel like we'd be ready to pounce on whatever that is. Whereas us flashback 10 years ago or even 20 years ago at the beginning of our journey, we would have dreamed about the day that it wasn't to zero every single month and that we could have a cushion where we could breathe and sleep comfortably, right? And now,
Yeah.
if it dips below what our new baseline is, if we do have a big repair or something, then we feel, oh man, we got to get it back up to our new baseline. Your context shifts as to what your baseline is. I agree as you keep growing.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the biggest myths about financial independence or creating a life you love, and how can we overcome them?
I think the biggest myth probably starts with the definition of what is financial independence,
Mm.
because that's different for everybody. So if you're trying to compare yourself to somebody who has hit financial independence, the FIRE movement, like being completely financially independent by the time you're, is it 30, 40? So if you're trying to do that, if you're trying to compare yourself to someone like that, but you know that you're miles and miles away from that, then you're not even going to make the little tiny changes that you need to do in order to be more financially independent, whatever that means for you. For me personally, what that means is that I can retire from nursing. So maybe even before the age of 55. That was my goal initially, but maybe it'll be 50. It's only a few years away. And then a little cottage on a piece of land somewhere with water and being able to read my books and listen to my podcasts and maybe even write a book and do my coaching because I don't want to stop working, but I want to be able to work on my own terms. So that's what financial independence means to me.
Mm-hmm.
So just
Yeah.
defining that for yourself and then working
Yeah.
towards that goal.
That's so, so important. I hope people are getting that message that we always just grip onto what society, what else, what is society doing? What is the normal that we need to be doing? If we can just all turn in and go, what is that thing that I want? What is that thing that fuels my soul? What is my end goal? Because I agree. I think I'm always going to be working or doing something in some form. I keep myself busy, but yes, to be able to sit at the lake, that is one of my favorite things, right? So carve out the end goal to what fuels you. And I think when you put that spin on financial independence looking different for everybody, that's a very valid point. Like, why are we gripping on to that? In the fire movement, I started off thinking the fire movement is amazing. It is so good. There's this gold level bar here. And the more I dug into it, the more I was like, ugh, like the way, the grind and the frugality that came along with the people that, and not everybody, just like some of the stories of what people were sacrificing now to get to that end goal. Like,
Yeah.
no, that's not financial independence. If you don't have a life now and you're waiting for someday, that's not living. Thank you for sharing that, because that is a really important piece of the puzzle. Now, on the lifestyle piece, one of my favorite questions, what is your biggest piece of advice for somebody to go out there and create a life they love, and especially a life they love that has financial independence?
Okay, I'm going to pull up. This could be a freebie as well for your audience. So it's the Wheel of Life. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh yeah,
Have you
I
heard
can
of
see
the
it.
Wheel of Life?
Oh,
Okay.
share, please.
So start with that. And this is 8 different sections. So personal growth, finance, family, career, relaxation, relationships, and spirituality. See where you are today. There's instructions on how to fill it all out. See where you are today, and then figure out what your goals are from there. Where do you want to be in a year or 5 years, 10 years from now? And then you know exactly what you need to work on. Then you're laser focused, you know what your priorities are. And it might not be your finance that you need to work on. Maybe you need to work on your spirituality because that's something really important to you, but you've let go of that to
Mhm.
make room for other things. So maybe you need to shift focus to that, whatever it is for you. And I actually start with this with all my coaching clients, even before we get on our free discovery call. I send this to them and I say, fill it out. Like, I know you're interested in the health piece, or you might be interested in the financial piece of coaching from me, but fill it out and then we'll see where we fall. And maybe there's other priorities that we can pull into our coaching sessions that we can work on little by little.
Nice. So you're going to get the full picture. And so that's a resource that you have to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I can show that. So if you go to my website, christinaday.ca, there's also a free course for couples on financial literacy. So it's a good course to take together. It's completely free. And if you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get the Wheel of Life. There's some journaling in there as well, and goal setting and all that, and some other stuff that comes with the freebies when you sign up for my newsletter.
Okay, perfect. And where can people reach out to you on social?
I'm mostly on Instagram, Coach Christina Day, so really easy to find.
Thank you so much for joining me on the show today, Christina.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun.